The Constitutional Court will conclude President Yoon's impeachment trial on Tuesday. A verdict is expected in mid-March. Trade authorities request that the U.S. government exempt Korea from its new tariff plans, while Korean business leaders emphasize the importance of stronger bilateral economic cooperation while in Washington this week. Amid a tense mood between the U.S. and Ukraine, Ukraine's president has met with Trump's envoy over a peace deal, after which he called the meeting productive. It's February 21st, 8 p.m. in Seoul. This is Newscenter. Thank you for joining us. I'm Yoon Jung-min. The president's impeachment trial will come to a close next week with an 11th hearing that'll see the respective sides sharing their final remarks. Eyes are now on the upcoming verdict. Oh Soo-young has our top story.
President Yoon Suk-yeol's impeachment trial will conclude next Tuesday with his final statement at the Constitutional Court. The court announced Thursday at Yoon's 10th trial hearing that the next and final session would be held on February 25th, some 74 days after the impeachment vote passed at the National Assembly. The bench will review remaining evidence before the National Assembly's legal team and the president's lawyers each make their closing arguments. Then the Assembly's panel co-chair Chung Chung-nae and President Yoon will deliver their final remarks. The court on Thursday held the last round of witness examinations.
The questions focused on whether the president went through proper cabinet procedures before declaring martial law and whether he'd ordered arrests of key politicians and judicial figures.
First up was Prime Minister Han Duck-soo, who said there had been anomalies in procedure and substance compared to a standard cabinet meeting. He said the defense minister had not consulted him before recommending martial law to the president, as required by the constitution, and said no minutes were taken. Han stopped short of judging whether or not a legitimate cabinet meeting took place, saying that should be determined through investigative and judicial procedures. Former National Intelligence Service Deputy Director Hong Jang-won, who was a witness earlier this month, returned for further questioning by Yoon's legal team. Hong previously testified that he'd made note of 14 to 16 figures to arrest under martial law, claiming that he'd written it in the night outside the residence of his boss, Director Cho Tae-yong. He received the names from Defense Counterintelligence Commander Yo In-young, who Hong phoned as the president had told him to help out the commander. But Hong changed his words on Thursday, saying he had been in his office after all. His boss told the court last week that Hong had lied about his whereabouts, citing CCTV footage. As Hong and Yoon's lawyers clashed over the veracity of his note, which was reproduced and altered various times, the president spoke out, saying the debate misses the point. He said he'd called Hong to encourage him to work with Yoon hunting down spies, without mentioning martial law. He pointed out that Hong was the one who called the commander, made notes, and then held on to them until he was dismissed from the NIS. National Police Agency Chief Cho Ji-ho also stood witness after 2 absences due to illness. He refused to answer most questions due to his own criminal case, but said he testified truthfully to prosecutors. Cho had said Yoon called him 6 times on December 3rd and told him to arrest lawmakers. Based on past presidential impeachment trials, a verdict is likely to be reached within 2 weeks around March 11th. Former President Park Geun-hye's impeachment was upheld in 11 days, while former President Roh Moo-hyun's was dismissed in 14 days. Oh Soo-young, Arirang News.
In a separate development, the National Police Agency has booked President Yoon on charges of obstructing the execution of an arrest warrant last month. Shin Ha-young explains.
President Yoon Suk-yeol has been booked by the NPA for allegedly using the Presidential Security Service to block investigators' attempts to detain him last month over his declaration of martial law. According to police on Friday, Yoon has been booked on charges of special obstruction of public duty. However, as a sitting president, he cannot be criminally prosecuted. The Special Police Investigation Unit looking into the martial law declaration has reportedly obtained text messages between Yoon and PSS Deputy Chief Kim Sung-hoon regarding efforts to block the execution of the warrant to detain him. It was confirmed that they exchanged messages through the US-based messaging app Signal on January 3rd during the first attempt to serve the warrant. 4 days later, they exchanged messages again, with Yoon ordering the security team to intervene if a second attempt was made. Kim relayed the order to his staff, but they refused to comply, leading to Yoon's arrest on January 15th. The police did not disclose the details of the messages. Meanwhile, the Special Investigation Unit announced on Friday that they had transferred the case of 6 military officials, including Won Chun-hee, head of the Defense Intelligence Agency, to the Corruption Investigation Office for high-ranking officials. The officials were booked on charges of insurrection. The CIO launched a search and seizure procedure the same day at Won's house and office. It is investigating allegations that Won met with former Defense Minister Kim Yong-hyun and former commander of the Defense Intelligence Command Moon Sang-ho the day before Yoon's martial law declaration to discuss its imposition. 신하영, Arirang News.
Korean trade officials and business leaders were in Washington this week with key trade agenda between the two countries amid the Trump administration's tariff campaign. Moon Hae-ryun has the details.
As South Korea seeks tariff relief and stronger economic cooperation, both government and business leaders are making a united effort to secure favorable conditions for Korean firms operating in the U.S. According to the Trade Ministry on Friday, Deputy Trade Minister Park Jong-won met with senior U.S. officials from the White House, the Commerce Department, and the Office of the U.S. Trade Representative during his visit to Washington, D.C. this week. He urged the U.S. to exempt South Korea from its new import tariff plans, citing the Korea-U.S. Free Trade Agreement that has eliminated most tariffs on goods between the two nations, and highlighted substantial investments and contributions under the Inflation Reduction Act and the CHIPS Act from South Korean firms. A South Korean delegation led by the Korea Chamber of Commerce and Industry Chairman Cha Tae-won also met with top U.S. officials in a bid to strengthen economic ties. During talks with senior White House officials, Cha emphasized that South Korean companies have invested over $160 billion in the U.S. manufacturing sector in the past 8 years, creating more than 80,000 high-quality jobs. Cha requested close cooperation between the two governments, while White House officials reportedly described discussions with the delegation as the most productive they have had with a private sector group. Moon Hae-ryun, Arirang News.
Authorities have proposed up to 38% in anti-dumping tariffs on Chinese thick steel plates, following an investigation into their impact on the local market. Kim Jong-sil has more.
Hot-rolled carbon steel plates are thick sheets of steel primarily used in shipbuilding and construction. Last year, South Korea imported 1.38 million tons of it from China, 3 times the amount in 2021. This surge is attributed to China's struggling real estate market, which has pushed excess steel into overseas markets. In response, Hyundai Steel filed a complaint accusing Chinese producers of dumping the plates at unfairly low prices, harming South Korea's domestic industry. After an investigation, the Trade Commission proposed anti-dumping duties of up to 38% on Chinese hot-rolled carbon steel plates. The Ministry of Economy and Finance is expected to make the final call within a month.
With the tariff increase, industries such as shipbuilding and construction that rely on hot-rolled carbon steel plates will face more pressure due to rising raw material costs.
While some view this as protectionism, experts emphasize the measure does not target a specific country.
This anti-dumping measure is not aimed at a specific country, but rather targets specific companies that have engaged in unfair practices. And when these practices lead to harm to the domestic industry, this is a legal remedy to address the damage.
Many in the steel sector support the measure, with one official stating that the tariffs are essential to protect domestic production from unfair competition. However, the shipbuilding industry has raised concerns, with one official noting that higher steel prices will reduce profit margins and ship orders, ultimately harming the industry. Meanwhile, the government is set to begin anti-dumping investigations on Chinese and Japanese hot-rolled steel plates. 김정실, Arirang News.
New safety measures will be initiated for fire prevention, fishing operations, and aviation. At Friday's meeting between the government and the ruling People Power Party, they announced detailed measures to prevent the recurrence of recent accidents. Following a passenger aircraft accident that resulted in 179 casualties last year, landing facilities and bird strike prevention equipment at 7 airports nationwide will be improved. Also, due to consecutive fishing boat capsizings, fishing crews will receive free inflatable life jackets. And nearly 2,000 construction sites will be urgently inspected until March 17th, while fire safety laws will be revised to prevent massive on-site fires. On the international front, amid recent tensions between the U.S. and Ukraine, Ukraine's president met with Trump's envoy. Zelenskyy called the meeting productive, but a scheduled joint press conference was canceled. Choi Min-jung covers this event and more.
Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelenskyy and U.S.-Ukraine envoy Keith Kellogg met in Kyiv on Thursday and held what Zelenskyy called a productive meeting. Zelenskyy shared on social media that they had a detailed conversation about the battlefield situation, the return of Ukrainian prisoners of war, and effective security guarantees, emphasizing the importance of U.S.-Ukraine relations. However, the meeting did not result in significant breakthroughs in securing U.S. support, as evidenced by the cancellation of a planned joint press conference at the request of the U.S. What was supposed to be a media event turned into a brief photo opportunity without remarks or questions. Kellogg's visit to Kyiv came amid escalating tensions between U.S. President Donald Trump and Zelenskyy. On Wednesday, Ukraine rejected U.S. demands for $500 billion in minerals as repayment for wartime aid, citing inadequate support from Washington and a lack of security guarantees. Trump's frustration with Zelenskyy is apparent, as he believes Zelenskyy has not taken advantage of the opportunities presented.
Look, President Trump is obviously very frustrated right now with President Zelenskyy. The fact that that he hasn't come to the table, that he hasn't been willing to take this opportunity that we have offered. I think he eventually will get to that point, and I hope so very quickly.
Additionally, the U.S. is resisting putting the blame on Russia for the war by opposing the inclusion of Russian aggression in a G7 joint statement marking the war's 3rd anniversary. This follows Trump's comments blaming Ukraine for the war and calling Zelenskyy a dictator without elections. He has also proposed inviting Russia back to the G7. Next week, Trump is set to meet with the leaders of France and the UK to discuss strategies for ending the war in Ukraine and post-war planning. European nations have so far been left without a clear role in the peace talks. Choi Min-jung, Arirang News.
Time now for our arts and culture segments. Our culture correspondent Song Yujin joins me here in the studio. Welcome, Yujin.
Happy Friday, Jungmin.
Happy Friday. What do you have for us today?
Well, Jungmin, I would like to say that here in Korea, at this time of the year, it's not the cherry on top. It's actually the strawberry, because we can see them everywhere, piling up at grocery stores, filling up shelves at the bakery, and also topping off desserts. But Korean strawberries, they are no longer just a seasonal favorite here in Korea, because they're making their way beyond our tables and into markets around the world. So for this week, I looked into the story behind Korean strawberries' success.
From cakes and tarts to canapes and salads and even sandwiches, strawberries dominate bakeries and restaurants across Korea this time of year. But their appeal isn't just local.
While Southeast Asia has long been a key market, Korean strawberries are now expanding into new regions. Compared to 2021, exports to the Middle East jumped 40 times last year, while U.S. exports increased threefold.
Until the early 2000s, Japanese strawberries dominated exports to Hong Kong and Southeast Asia. But in 2002, Korea developed the Maehang variety, which has firmer flesh, a longer shelf life, and a sweeter taste, ideal for export. That was the turning point.
It all started here.
So here, the Strawberry Research Institute in Nonsan City, Chungcheongnam-do Province, is where Korea's signature strawberry varieties like this are developed. So far, researchers here have cultivated over a dozen unique varieties.
This institute introduced the internationally popular Maehang and then Seolhyang in 2005, which holds an 80% share of the domestic market. It's also home to trending varieties like Kingsberry, as large as a fist, and Vitaberry, known for its high vitamin content. Developing new strains is a rigorous process, typically taking 5 to 7 years.
We do it through selective breeding with a focus on taste and yield. The flavor must stand out to attract consumers, and a high-yield variety ensures stable supply.
This commitment has shaped the iconic flavor of Korean strawberries.
Korean strawberries offer a unique sweet-tart balance, which is different to many tropical fruits, for example. They also have a juicy texture and softer bite, which makes them especially popular among international consumers.
But the journey doesn't stop here, with researchers working to develop the breakthrough variety.
We're developing new varieties with improved durability for the sake of distribution. At the same time, as climate conditions change, we're also focusing on breeding disease-resistant strawberries.
It's a success story that's getting sweeter. And it looks like the best is yet to come.
It looks like a very good business, right? Eugene, while strawberries are in peak season here, they're typically known as a summer fruit in many other parts of the world. What makes Korea different?
Well, actually, strawberries used to be peak season in summer here in Korea at around early May. But thanks to advancement of farming technology, for example, greenhouse cultivation with precise temperature control, farmers are now able to harvest strawberries even cold winter months like this, which is the reason why we were able to visit the Strawberry Institute and film fresh strawberries. And what's really interesting is that winter strawberries take about a little more than 2 months to flower and harvest, compared to just 1 to 1.5 months for summer varieties. And this slower growth at lower temperatures allows the fruit to develop a denser, firmer texture and accumulate more nutrients, resulting in a sweeter and more flavorful berry. And there's also a strategic shift in marketing, because with fewer fruit options available in winter, producers began focusing on the colder months to meet consumer demand.
Fascinating. And Eugene, do you have any recommendations from the many strawberry varieties out there?
Well, I think this will be the very exciting part. So according to the Korea Strawberry Research Institute, so far Korea has developed around 60 to 70 varieties, but only a little more than 10 are currently available at the market. So if we could give recommendations to our viewers, researcher Yang, who appeared in my report, recommends Seolhyang, which is loved for its soft texture and sweetness. But I would like to recommend a newer variety to look out for, which is Joyberry, first introduced in 2023, because they're firmer and even sweeter than Seolhyang. And if you want something unique, there is also a variety called Durihyang, which is known for its unique fragrance. And this specific variety gained huge attention. It went viral online after BTS member Jin introduced it on his social media back in 2022.
Lots to explore. Thanks, Eugene.
My pleasure.
And on the subject of successful stories, a group of granny rappers in a remote Korean county is garnering quite a bit of attention for proving it's never too late to learn. Our Park Go-nu met up with them.
A community center in a small rural village of around 100 residents. This is where Suni and the Seven Princesses, a hip-hop group of women with an average age of 85, was formed 2 years ago. Overhearing joyful voices, I peeked inside.
안녕하세요. 뭐 하고 계셨어요?
한글 공부하고 있었어요.
Their life stories, woven into their lyrics, have brought fresh energy thanks to their regular Korean classes.
When I was young, I had to walk several kilometers to school because of the war, so I couldn't study. But learning Korean has opened my eyes.
They use fun methods like singing traditional Korean songs to improve. After class, they quickly transformed donning hip-hop gear and rapping like pros, a striking contrast to their Korean lessons. The Granny rappers show us that it's never too late to challenge yourself and speak your truth through your honest lyrics. Inspired by them, today I decided to try rapping. Together with the Grannies, we send our message to our viewers. 우린 너무 행복해요. 여러분도 행복하세요. Everybody happy. This group has offered hope and inspiration in South Korea, which turned into a super-age society last year with over 20% of the population aged 65 or older. Their success has even led to the creation of other elderly hip-hop groups. And they're boosting the local economy with merchandise featuring their faces, symbolizing the region. Their influence stretches beyond the local communities, performing at venues nationwide, and even spreading globally. A documentary about them, directed by a Polish filmmaker, is set to be released later this year. The filmmaker shared her inspiration behind the project.
The project is to show to the other people that we are limitless, that we can change our lives no matter in which age we are currently in. We shouldn't have any excuses for anything, right? She started the rapping band in that age, so that's really impressive.
As the filmmaker hopes, Suni and the Seven Princesses will continue spreading their powerful message.
It's incredible we've come this far. If we can do it at this age, young people can too.
Emphasizing that she's already very happy, she said her only wish is for her and the members to stay healthy. 박건우, Arirang News, 7곡.
The cold is lasting for a long time. Currently, cold wave warnings and advisories are still in place for the whole country. Even during the daytime, temperatures stayed below 0 degrees nationwide. This freezing cold spell will persist until this weekend. The atmosphere is drying up day by day. In the East Coast areas where a dry weather warning is in effect, the wildfire crisis warning level was raised to caution level. With gusty winds blowing, please be careful not to cause any wildfires. Tomorrow morning will start off at below 0 degrees nationwide, with Seoul at -7 degrees Celsius, Chuncheon at -11 degrees. Daily highs will move up to 2 degrees in Seoul, 5 degrees in Daegu and Gyeongju. Starting from early next week, the weather will start to ease off a bit. That's all for Korea. Here are the weather conditions around the world.
That is Newscenter for tonight. Thank you for watching. A panel session up next.